Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravanim Sharini Nivishesha Sanyavadi Paskadya Desatarini. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. My name is Chakravarti Das. I'm from Germany. And I have two great fortunes in my life. Maybe some more, but the two main fortunes that I have is that I somehow or another received the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada by being accepted as his disciple in 1971. And the other great fortune that I feel is that I have the great privilege of having the inconceivable friendship of Radhanath Maharaj. And I'm not a great speaker or a learned person, so I'm not going to attempt to speak learned words. But even a fool can express some words of gratitude and thanksgiving. And so I'm very grateful to be here again. Maybe some of you remember me, I was here 6 years ago. And it was a very extraordinary experience to be here at that time, and again it is for me now. You may also have this experience in your life that there are places, if you go there, they bring out the worst in you, and there are other places, if you go there, they bring out the best in you. So I had this experience last time when I was here 6 years ago. 1 week I stayed. And it was really a heart-changing and life-changing experience for me to be amongst you and to have the association of Radhanath Maharaj and to be in the presence of Radha Gopinath. And why are some places like that? Some bring out the worst, some bring out the best. It is because of the atmosphere which is there in different places. And of course the atmosphere is not simply some geographic phenomena, but the atmosphere is created by the people who are in those places. That's why holy places like Vrindavan, Mayapur, places of pilgrimage, they are special because devotees of the Lord are assembling there and they create this spiritual atmosphere. So it is actually the people who bring out the worst or the best in you. And like I said before, I have this great fortune of knowing Radhanath Maharaj for many, many years, almost, maybe almost 30 years now. And whenever I'm in his company, whenever I'm in his presence, I really feel it brings out the very best in myself. And so I'm always hankering to have his association. And actually, by his grace, I'm being here today. I met him in Mayapur. And he very strongly encouraged me to come here. It was not on my schedule. And my wife, Dineshana Mataji, she is with me here. She is actually the GBC for Germany and Austria and Switzerland. So we had a meeting with Maharaj, and he was very much encouraging us to come, especially in regards, actually Maharaj has been encouraging me or asking me to come for a long time, also to visit Bhaktivedanta Hospital because I had some health problems to get some checkup. But quite honestly, this is the best hospital for me because much more than, of course, a body is also important, but much more, if the soul is not in good shape or if the soul is sick, all your material health or wealth will do you no good. So to be here today on this auspicious day in your company, this is the best medicine for my soul, at least I can say. Many years since I have this fortune to have this relationship with Radhanath Maharaj, I follow his teachings on the internet, I listen to his classes, I see on the website the different excerpts from his speeches that he gives, and I must say there's really no other living person after Srila Prabhupada who inspires me more than him. For me, he has not only understood, but also in his example, in his life, summed up the essence of spiritual life, of what Krishna consciousness is. Just a few weeks ago, there was an excerpt on the internet. I read his Facebook page, there's always some quotes from him. And it was a wonderful excerpt from a speech he gave at some yoga teachers' conference or seminar, where he was stressing the need not only to teach people yoga, but what is much more important actually, not only to change the physical situation, but to change the spiritual situation and to change their hearts. One of my favorite quotes from him is, also that I've read that on the internet, on Facebook. spiritual life is about transformation of the heart. That's really the essence of spiritual life. If your heart doesn't get transformed in the process, you may become a very, very learned person, or even some people in India, it is very prevalent that people become extremely rich or popular or famous through some display of spirituality. But if your heart is not changed, it is of no use, ultimately. So, on another quote, these are my two favorite quotes from Radhanath Maharaj. This one, spiritual life is about transformation of the heart. And the other one is, one whose heart is filled with love, only love will come out. And the fact is that it is really this one ingredient that makes the whole difference. If you study any of the great religions in the world that have survived the test of time, they all have left books, volumes of books or holy scriptures of their founders, the Bible, the Dharmapada, the Quran, or even our scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam. If you really go to the core of what we see there is, or if you analyze, you can understand if all the teachings, the teachings are there and they have made an impact, but the impact has only come because the people who have taught or spoken those truths have done so with a heart full of compassion and full of love. If the same words would have been spoken, the same teachings, the same conclusions would have been presented without compassion, without love, they would have no effect. They would have had no impact in time. If you see the teachings of or the example of the life of Lord Jesus, he impacted the followers of his time or the people of his time also by his words, but mostly by his acts and his attitude of compassion and love. That's what gave his words substance. Lord Buddha also, his main teaching, loving kindness. People have accepted this philosophy, it's still prevalent today, because not only did he teach it, but he also lived it, and therefore people took it. And recently I even studied some Muslim scriptures, or some Islamic scholars writing, because I was always wondering how was it possible that Islam could actually become so prominent in such a short time, even though Muhammad, he taught such a completely different thing than what the people experienced at that time. Was it only the teaching? And I could not understand how this was possible. But recently I read an account that actually was the puzzle piece to that my quest. That as Lord Jesus, as Lord Buddha, as Lord Chaitanya, as Srila Prabhupada, and as Radhanath Maharaj exemplify in their lives, he also was a very compassionate, gentle, loving person who mostly, attracted his followers, his first followers, by those personal qualities, by his personal attitudes. And we find these principles, Maharaj has talked about it many times also today. I can just share a few thoughts that I have had on this matter in recent times when I was reading Srila Prabhupada's books and coming upon certain passages, which I have read many times before, and I'm sure you also have this experience sometimes, that you read and read and read for many years, and then out of a sudden the same story or the same quote out of a sudden reveals a totally new facet or new impact that you formerly never saw. So if you allow me to share 2 or 3 thoughts with you on some of these things that I have read out of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is appropriate on this day, which illustrate this point that I was just trying to relate to you before, the importance of, if we want to spread spiritual life, if we want to have spiritual life for ourselves, our hearts have to be transformed. They have to be softened by love. They have to become warm and gentle. So the first story I like to relate to you is, we have heard this from Maharaj today in another frame. It's a story of Jagai and Madai when they were approached by Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu. Maharaj was illustrating what kind of characters Jagai and Madai were. The worst type of offenders, the worst criminals, murderers, rapists, plunderers, thieves, and practically any bad quality. So Lord Chaitanya had sent out Haridas Thakur and Nityananda for preaching, door-to-door preaching, or going to spread the holy name around. So they came upon these two individuals. And as we have heard, Haridas Thakur was an extremely empowered human being. Actually, he was Lord Brahma himself. Nityananda was Lord Mahavishnu himself. And Lord Balaram himself. So they approached these two personalities and tried to induce them to chant Hare Krishna. They spoke philosophy to them. They gave all the good reasons and all the good advice and all the good heartfelt encouragement, but Jagai and Madai didn't change. Their mentality was so engrossed, so deep in Maya, so covered, their soul was so covered that they could not take advantage of this great opportunity. Then they even attacked and insulted Haridas Thakur, and they attacked Lord Nityananda by throwing this rock or some piece of glass or whatever, some pot, and Lord Nityananda was bleeding. So Lord Chaitanya, he felt this and he came and he was enraged. And actually, for the first time in this, which is described in this incident, he could not contain himself, he could not control himself, because he felt so much pain by seeing his devotees, his dearmost devotees attacked and insulted, that he called for his Sudarshan chakra and he wanted to kill Jagai and Madai. So normally, we have heard, if somebody is in great danger from Maharaj, or if there is some imminent danger, the natural tendency of a person is to call to God, Hari, Hari, or to pray to God for safety or for deliverance. So there could be no greater danger. A serpent, like Maharaj said, a cobra or a tiger or whatever, this is a very dangerous thing, but there can be nothing more dangerous and devastating than the Sudarshan chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means no chance, there is no chance of surviving, no chance of escaping that attack. But even when Lord Chaitanya himself came, and even when Jagai and Madai experienced the anger of the Lord, even perhaps they have become afraid, but still that fear did not change their heart. That fear that they experienced when they saw the Sudarshan chakra of the Lord, it maybe struck their heart with fear, but it did not change their heart to love. But then a miracle happened. Lord Nityananda begged Lord Chaitanya, said, please stop. You have not come in this incarnation to kill the demons as you did before in previous incarnations. But you have come as the most merciful, the most magnificent Lord to give Krishna Prema freely, indiscriminately to anyone. So this is not proper for you in this incarnation to act like this. Please don't do this. And he was pleading for the life of Jagai and Madai. And when Jagai and Madai saw the extent of compassion and love that Nityananda displayed for them, even though they had attacked him, that experience of love changed their heart. Not the preaching, not the chanting of the holy name, even the chanting by Haridas Thakur or Lord Nityananda, not even the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Chaitanya, and not even the fear of death, of being struck down by the Sudarshan Chakra could change the stone-like hearts of Jagai and Madhai. But the only chance they had was to at one point perceive the unconditional love and compassion that was exhibited by Lord Nityananda Prabhu when he pleaded with Lord Chaitanya to spare them. That changed their heart. And they became great devotees of the Lord. So this is one incident where this principle is very, very vividly manifest. Another incident is when Haridas Thakur was approached by, you know, the story of the prostitute. She was sent to, because the Brahmins, you know, just like before we heard, he had so many hardships that they went through. Also the devotees in Vrindavan, in Nadadvip in the beginning, so many hardships, so many envious people tried to disturb them or even kill them or destroy their bhajan. So also the Haridas Thakur in this situation, the Brahmins had made some plot with, I think, some of the rulers of that time, and they made conceived a plot to employ to, if he cannot stop him, we will just send this beautiful prostitute to seduce him. And then once he will be caught red-handed, and all his fame and all the attraction that people have for his sadhana, it will be destroyed because he will be exposed simply as a hypocrite who has been easily seduced by this prostitute. Now this was not an ordinary, they of course wanted to make sure that this whole plan works, so they sent the most beautiful woman they could find who was in that profession. And she came to Haridas Thakur, and this story is, we know, most of you know the story, that after 3 days, I think, of hearing Haridas Thakur chant the holy name, she became a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord. So one might say she became purified by the chanting of Haridas Thakur. That is true. But the first question is, I think, we never ask ourselves, why did she sit there for 3 days in the first place? Something had to happen, something had to proceed that she actually stayed there for this time. And it is very interesting, like Maharaj uses this word sometimes, it's very interesting for me, to note that when she approached Haridas Thakur, he knew why she was coming. He knew who she was. He did not tell her, get lost, you're a prostitute. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't associate with prostitutes. He didn't say that. He didn't say to her, in other words, he didn't reject her for what he was as the person. Then he could have said, well, okay, you stay here, but I know for what you have come. But don't worry about it, there's no chance that you're going to seduce me. But if you want, you can stay here for 3 days and listen to my chanting. He didn't do that. What did he do? He actually told her, yes, you sit here, I just have to finish my rounds. And then when I finished my rounds, then we can enjoy together. And so of course he knew that this was his way of dealing with the situation. He had no intention. But the secret of the story is that if he would have told her from the very beginning, she would have said, okay, I have no chance here, I'm wasting my time, and left. So practically speaking, only because he accepted her for what she was, and he even accepted her intention. He didn't refuse her intention. He even accepted her intention. That made it possible for her to stay in his association for 3 days, and then by the sound of his chanting become purified. So actually, again, it is a display of Haridas Thakur's love for this person. He could have easily rejected her from the very beginning. He could have told her, you have come here to seduce me. I know this whole plan. Get lost. Or he could have told her, you can, if you want, you can stay, but nothing is going to happen. I'm going to simply chant my rounds. No, he accepted her for what she was. And in this way, he showed his compassion and he transformed her heart. And she became a great devotee. So we have seen that in the case of Jagai Mada, even the presence of the Lord in his anger form, it could not change the heart of a person. The Lord can kill so many demons, he has done this, and they get liberated. But their hearts don't get changed. Hiranyakashipu's heart did not get changed when he experienced the anger of the Lord, but he became liberated. But on the other hand, we see Lord Chaitanya, when he was walking through the Jharakanda forest, and he saw this deer and tiger, and he was inducing them to chant Hare Krishna, even by his display of divine love and his chanting that was permeating this divine love, even a tiger and a deer could become, their hearts could be changed. Their bodies didn't change. They were still a tiger, they were still a deer, but their hearts became changed, and even the tiger and the deer began to dance and chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But then another extraordinary thing happened. We may think, okay, he induced them to chant. But then actually the even more extraordinary thing happened, that after they had awakened their love for God in their heart, out of sudden there is a natural enmity between a tiger and a deer. Because the tiger has the tendency or the natural inclination to eat the deer. So if you eat somebody, if you kill somebody, that's a form of enmity. And of course, on the other side, the enmity of the deer to the tiger is because she is in fear of the tiger. So there's no natural, friendship between a tiger and a deer. Actually, it couldn't be more opposite characteristics or characters than a tiger and a deer. But when they became infused with love of God, what did they do? They chanted, and then they embraced each other, and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it says that they even kissed each other. So in other words, the love of God that was awakened in their heart, it also awakened their sense of compassion and affection and love for each other. And this is really the symptom of spiritual life. We cannot have love of God if you don't love each other. It is impossible. In the Ishopanishad, there is this wonderful verse. Marge was pointing out today that we are all infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead eternally. So as such, in every living being, there is inherent good. Even in the worst of sinners, like in Jagai and Madai, there is an inherent good. Nothing is all bad. I was reading a quote some time ago, which I thought was very funny. It said that nothing is all bad, even a broken watch, like if the watch, how to call it, the dial doesn't turn anymore. Nowadays they have all electronic or digital watches. But if the thing, how to say, on the watch, the hands of the watch don't turn anymore. So it's complete, actually it's useless. But even such a useless broken watch, 2 times a day it shows the right time. Right? 2 times a day it shows exactly the right time. So there's nothing that is all bad. And especially in Krishna's part and parcels, even in the worst of sinners, there is an inherent good. And that inherent good is that Krishna is the eternal lover and the eternal friend of all his part and parcels. He loves us unconditionally, eternally, perpetually. So therefore, if we understand this truth, this is the quote from Ishopanishad, one who understands that every living being is nothing but a part and parcel of the Supreme Being, how can he hurt anyone or hate any being? But it is not only in the Vaishnava association. If you want to enter into the spiritual world, which is ultimately the goal of all spiritual activity, to develop prema and to enter into the pastimes of the Supreme Lord in a loving devotional attitude. Somebody told me some time ago, he made in spiritual life, I do not need friends. I don't need friends. I can just do my service and be satisfied with that. But I think that is a misconception. Because if you enter into the spiritual world, there's only but friendship. There's every relationship. Maybe there is some distinction in between different personalities. Also in the Chaitanya Lila we see that some people, sometimes it is described. I was just reading this book, which is the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya's followers after his departure. Then sometimes it said the friendship of this devotee and this devotee, it is indescribable. It was so deep. They had such deep friendship. Or then another devotee. So many examples of devotees who had their different types of friendship. So the intensity of friendship may differ, but the fact is that we have to have affection for all devotees. Actually, we have to have a natural affection for all living beings, because that is Krishna's attitude towards everyone. We cannot enter into the spiritual world with the idea of, well, I hate you, but I tolerate you. Or, I don't care for you, or I don't like you, but I respect you. That is not enough. That may be in material dealings, like for example, if you're working in a job, I'm working in a job. So sometimes amongst colleagues, some people don't like each other. So, but still they have to work together, they have to tolerate each other. Some people you don't care for, but you have some respect for them. You don't just, badmouth them or say some bad things. You have some respect. This may be in dealings within the material world, but in order to enter into the spiritual world, there has to be affection. The whole spiritual world is emanated or permeated with the love of Krishna for his part and parcels and the dealings amongst the devotees. So how can we ever expect to go to this place if we do not develop this attitude now amongst each other? So there may be some, like I said, some difference in how we express this affection according to different, bodies. Like for example, brahmacharis amongst each other, they can embrace if they're equals. You may not do the same thing between brahmachari and brahmacharini. That would be improper etiquette. Or towards a senior, you may show your affection in a different way, in a reverential way. Or to somebody who is junior to you, you may show your guidance and your compassion. But in whatever the relationship is, it has to be based on affection. There has to be some genuine love. If you want to ignite a fire, this is one thing I learned in physics class many years back. If you want to ignite a fire, 3 things are required, and one of the 3, the fuel, the oxygen, and fire or heat. In order to ignite a fire, you have to have a fire. Or at least if you don't have a fire, you have to have heat. That's why the Aborigines, they use a stick, and by rubbing the stick, or even a match, if you rub a match on a matchbox, simply by this friction, you're creating heat, and that heat is igniting the match. So in order to ignite a fire, you have to have heat. And if you want to inspire love of God, in others, the flame of bhakti, we have to have love ourselves. We have to show love and compassion and affection to everyone. This is why this temple is so wonderful, and it is for me and others, everyone who is here, such a privilege to be here. Because for me, really, I feel that this temple, this place, Chowpatty, it is vibrant with this type of attitude. That's why there are so many people here. In other places of the world, if you go some other places, you will find some temples are empty. And even in some places, the few people who are there, even after one after the other leaves. Because that's the secret. If there's no love, no compassion, no affectionate dealings amongst the devotees, then why stay in such a place? Why should I stay in such a place? Then I can stay in the material world. That's the common thing. So we have to, if you want to make ourselves Krishna conscious, or be made Krishna conscious, or make others Krishna conscious, this is what, like no other I can say. I have been around for Krishna consciousness for 41 years. And this is the one most important lesson that I'm learning from Radhanath Maharaj. He can, in his presence, like I said, the best in everyone comes out. I can say this for myself. I know my faults, I know my weaknesses. But in his presence I feel the best side of me is coming out. Why is that? Why does he have that capacity? It is because he sees the good, that one portion of goodness in every person. It is not that he is foolish and doesn't see the other part. It's not that he is ignorant of your or my weaknesses or faults. He sees them also. But the vision of love, or the vision of a saint, is to ignore these negative aspects of our character, of our personality, our weaknesses, and simply encourage us in those parts where our goodness is. And therefore, because, like I said, he's seeing the good, he brings out the good. A person who only sees the negative part, there are people like that, and like I said, some people bring out the worst in you, and those are usually those people who see the worst in you. They bring out the worst in you. They can't help you. So we should look for that type of saintly association that can help us in this way, who have that warmth in their heart, and with the fire of bhakti that they have in their heart, where, like I said, that quote from Maharaj, whose hearts are filled with love and where only love is coming out. And by that, coming into that contact with that type of energy, that type of compassionate, devotional energy, our soul becomes, our coverings become, removed, and we can perceive our own goodness and our own connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and aspire to develop in spiritual life and become closer to Krishna, or closer to our spiritual master. Like in my case, my spiritual master is Srila Prabhupada. I need the association of devotees like Radhanath Maharaj. Without them, I would be lost. I feel my saving grace in my life is, like I said in the beginning, that I've received the causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and I'm extremely grateful to have Maharaj's friendship, and also that because I'm experiencing his friendship more and more over the years, I feel that I'm developing some genuine affection for him. And I think by these three ingredients, I have the confidence that my life is saved. That that Krishna will keep me, and Srila Prabhupada will keep me, and Radhanath Maharaj keep me, and you keep me in the company of devotees. So this is my few words of gratitude, and I hope maybe you can take some of it to heart for yourself. Hare Krishna.